Hey guys, welcome back. So with our recent talks on the new Carnage series, I wanted to go back and cover Cult of Carnage Misery, because as far as the symbiote insanity, we're pretty much caught up with everything else aside from this and Red Goblin. So I figured we'd go back and cover some of these issues to fill in between the monthly Carnage and Venom stories, especially with Liz showing up again in both Venom and the new Carnage series. And with that said, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch your spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so this one starts out with Liz Allan thinking back on her late husband, Harry Osborn, and as she does, her mind cycles through the good times as well as the not so perfect moments, but together those are all the things that make the memory special. But eventually we see that this leads to her going out in the rain and visiting his grave, and after that, when she gets back home, she spends some time looking in the closet, looking at his clothes and old paintings and just thinking back on more of these memories. Until eventually she hears a phone vibrating that she didn't know about, so Liz answers it, only to hear no response on the other end just before it disconnects. So right away Liz loses it because she didn't know anything about this secret phone that Harry had tucked away, which now makes it seem like he was having an affair. So Liz tosses the phone into the wall while screaming that she can't take any more of his secrets, but this ends up opening a secret compartment behind the closet, revealing that Harry had an additional room packed with all sorts of goblin gear from his time as the Green Goblin that Liz didn't know was there. So immediately she makes a call to get Spearhead and a bunch of guardsmen to move all of this goblin gear out of her home the next morning. And Spearhead's a character we were introduced to back in Venom Volume 5 Issue 2. And I want you guys to keep in mind, as we make our way through this series, a lot of what we're seeing here is playing out during the earlier portion of the recent Venom run. So just kind of keep that in mind as we cover this. But right now, as the different guardsmen are taking the goblin gear out of Liz's home, Normie tries to stop them, because this was his dad's stuff, and he believes that his dad kept all of it here to keep them safe. And the way Normie sees it, they don't know who else is out there waiting for an opportunity to hurt them. And as soon as he says this, we get a glimpse of someone who's watching them right now. And we'll see who this is later on in the series. But as Normie's trying to stop the guardsmen from taking the goblin gear, one of the pumpkin bombs just falls out and it rolls over towards Stanley, who thinks it's just a toy. And just as a quick reminder, Stanley's the son of Harry Osborn's clone and Lily Hollister, and at times, though we've seen him refer to Liz as Mom, most of the time he calls her Aunt Liz, and that's mainly because she's been taking care of him as if he were her own. But as he's just handling this pumpkin bomb, Liz carefully tells him to hand it over, and she even does a bit of the parental bribing by telling Stanley if he gives it to her, she'll take him to the store and buy him a toy later. And it works at first until Stanley remembers that this sounds like a lie she told last week, and so quickly she tells him she didn't lie, she got busy. So tomorrow she'll take him to work and stop by the toy store on the way home. And after hearing that, Stanley's like, alright, you got a deal. And from there, he hands the pumpkin bomb over. And after that, Normie just lets the guardsmen go, and Liz makes sure to tell him how dangerous that was. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to them both missing Harry. So Liz tells Normie that this isn't her trying to erase Harry. She misses him every day, and that's something she'd never do. So from here, we follow Liz over to Alchemax Labs, where currently they're trying to use a strain from the Carnage symbiote and merge it with another symbiote, since the Carnage strain shows the most potential for weaponization and regeneration. So they attempted to do this on a cellular level, but the Carnage strain would just kill other cells. Go figure. But with their main goal being to harness the Carnage strain and find a way to tame it, Liz suggests that they use anti-venom, and Dr. Steven lets her know that he's already on it. Because at this point they know that in small doses, the anti-venom cells kill symbiote cells, but when they tested this out with the Carnage strain fought back. So as it stands, the solution that they've come to make it work and make sure that the Carnage strain and the anti-venom don't kill each other, they both need to be bonded to one host that can mediate between the two. And prior to this conversation, Dr. Steven had already set up the basis for a trial run, and he did so by taking a chimpanzee by the name of Grace, bonded it with the Carnage strain, and kept it under observation so it could get acclimated before introducing it to anti-venom. And when they do, it gets pretty violent because the chimpanzee's bones is cracking and all that. Because as Dr. Steven would describe, this host just wasn't aggressive enough to tame the two different strains and make them harmonious. And they didn't kill the chimp, it just passed out after. So from here, Dr. Steven just tells Liz that they'll keep trying, because there's a number of other symbiotes that they have who are showing potential. And out of these other symbiotes that we see here, This is where this series just kind of brushes over the details by not telling us which one's a strain and which one's the actual symbiote, because out of these four, we know that Toxin's been with Bren since King in Black. And as far as the Scream symbiote, we know that Dr. Steven took samples of it back in Extreme Carnage when the actual Scream symbiote was combined with Anti-Venom and became Silence, and in the case of Phage and Lasher, well, I'm pretty sure we're both taken in at the conclusion of Extreme Carnage, but none of them that we see here are given the proper references to how they got here, and we're just told that they're all strains, which conceptually is not a new thing, because Carnage been passing out strains for years. And to me, it just kind of feels like that Alchemax trope that we get sometimes, where it's like they just have samples for days, as a result of a symbiote crossing their path in the previous story. But just after this, we're introduced to a guy named Corwin Jones, who's ex-military, which has left him with some health conditions that we'll learn more about over the course of time. And currently, he's working for Alchemax as a guardsman. But someone who remains to be seen set up a meeting with Corwin to hire him so he can use his access as a guardsman and steal the symbiotes from Alchemax, so he agrees. And there's more to his motivations than just the money, though that's what it seems like at first, and we'll talk more about that as the story continues. But after this, we jump over to the next day in a meeting that's being held between Liz Allan and Carlton Drake, where essentially at this point the Life Foundation is looking to acquire Alchemax, and for a very generous amount as well. But of course Liz, she doesn't want to sell, and we see here that the only reason the Life Foundation has been allowing Liz and Alchemax to use Spearhead is because they were planning to take control of the company anyway. So right here Liz just tells Drake Alchemax isn't for sale, so he ends up leaving while giving her a warning and telling her symbiotes are expensive and she can find herself going bankrupt in 6 months. But we know where this is heading because of what we've already seen in the Venom series. Because right here, this isn't just Liz pushing back against Carlton Drake and the Life Foundation, because in the larger picture, Drake's being manipulated by Meridius. So think of it more so as Meridius making his move on Alchemax. And I got a link to the Venom playlist in the description, just below the like button, in case you want to skip ahead of this series and see how that's going. So from here, Liz goes to meet up with Dr. Zafar Hakam, who she also has a bit of history with, but she's meeting up with him here to get his help on the research involving the Carnage symbiote, because low-key Liz needs this to work. She needs it to be a game changer. So she brings him a sample of what is effectively the Carnage strain with anti-venom already applied to it. Albeit, once again, Alchemax hasn't had a successful run with a host, but they need this to be a breakthrough for healthcare and affordable remedies. But first, she wants Dr. Hakam to let her know his professional opinion on if this will work or if it's something that'll blow up in her face. So he tells her she's going to change the world one way or the other, but this right here, this ain't it. And he tells her that no good can come from this, which isn't exactly the news that Liz wanted to hear. But it's not going to stop her from experimenting on symbiotes. And as we jump forward to later that evening, over at Alchemax, we find Spearhead leading a group of guardsmen on a routine patrol, and these guys end up getting attacked by Corwin Jones, who perhaps could have taken a more subtle approach for his symbiote heist. But the funny thing is here, when he attacks Spearhead, he calls Corwin by name. He's like, man, I've been expecting you. To where from there, a ton of guardsmen start swooping in, and Spearhead just tells him, man, like, you ain't think nobody was gonna notice you taking home armor? Like, come on, man. But as soon as they grab him, he sets off remote bombs at Alchemax, to where from there he makes his way up to the top floor, to Liz Allan's office. And in her case, we actually find out that she kept her promise to Stanley, as far as taking him to work and buying him a toy, or better yet 2 toys to make up for the last one she didn't get. But unfortunately, this is the same night that Corwin Jones has planned his attack. So Liz quickly rushes Stanley to a safe room before heading over to Dr. Steven to lock down the symbiotes, only to find that Jones has made his way to Dr. Steven first. So Liz tells him if he takes another step, she's gonna incinerate every last one of these symbiotes. So he tells her that he believes her, just before sending out his drones to break the containments with sonics and suck up all the symbiotes from inside. And just before he leaves, he sets off another explosion, which breaks the container that Liz had in her pocket that was holding both the Carnage and Anti-Venom strains, which is a surprise to Dr. Steven because he didn't even know she left the building with them. But with seeing that it's quickly beginning to bond with her, he tells her that she has to fight to control it, or she'll be consumed by it. And before Liz can even come to grips on what she needs to do, she's bonded with the hybrid strain, to where now with her new hybrid symbiote, Liz Allan now goes by the name of Misery. And so now real quick, I'm going to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.